Deep beneath the Apennine Mountains of Italy lies the Gran Sasso National Laboratory, one of the world's most sophisticated underground research facilities. In 1997, this remote installation became the site of an experiment that would challenge the very foundation of modern physics. A theoretical physicist named Dr. Emil Varga was conducting what appeared to be routine work on neutrino detection timing protocols. Neutrinos are ghost particles that pass through matter almost without interaction. Detecting them requires massive underground laboratories shielded from cosmic radiation. Varga's assignment seemed mundane, calibrating atomic clocks used to measure neutrino arrival times across a fixed baseline distance. It was technical work that rarely attracted attention from senior researchers. But during a late-night session in November, Varga noticed something that violated every principle of relativity. A cluster of neutrinos appeared to arrive at the detector earlier than physically possible. According to his measurements, these particles had traveled faster than light itself, beating photons across the same distance by a margin too consistent to dismiss as error. Varga's first reaction was skepticism. He spent weeks methodically checking every component of his detection system. He recalibrated the atomic clocks multiple times. He replaced fiber optic cables. He ran the experiment through dozens of cycles. The anomaly persisted. The particles kept arriving early, exceeding the cosmic speed limit by a small but measurable amount. According to fragments of his research notes that later surfaced during an internal inquiry, Varga understood the catastrophic implications. If even one particle could exceed light speed, causality itself would break down. Effects could precede their causes. Time's arrow would lose its direction. The entire framework of modern physics would require fundamental revision. Rather than announce his findings through normal academic channels, Varga requested additional experimental time and began working in isolation from the main research team.
Dr. Varga's behavior changed in the final weeks of 1997. Colleagues noticed he had become secretive, arriving at odd hours and restricting access to his workspace. He told other researchers he was eliminating systematic errors before publishing, but his private documentation suggests deeper concerns. He was trying to understand whether he had discovered a genuine phenomenon or stumbled into something he was not meant to find. On December 8th, security logs show that Varga entered the Gran Sasso facility at 3:42 in the morning. Surveillance cameras captured him walking through the underground corridors carrying a metal briefcase. His security badge registered at multiple checkpoints as he made his way to the neutrino detection chamber. No footage ever showed him leaving the facility. When the day shift arrived that morning, Varga's workstation was stripped bare. The modified spectrometer he had been using for timing measurements was gone. His computer hard drives had been physically removed from their mounts. Even his handwritten laboratory notebooks had vanished from the locked cabinet where he stored them. By midday, personnel arrived at Gran Sasso who were not affiliated with the laboratory, the university, or any known civilian research institution. They wore no identification badges. When laboratory technicians asked questions, they were told the matter involved procedural security protocols and further inquiry was not authorized. Varga's office was sealed with containment tape. The official documentation cited unspecified violations of research protocol. No details were provided. No timeline for investigation was given. Within 72 hours, all references to his timing anomaly experiments had been removed from internal databases. 3 weeks later, the laboratory issued a terse statement. Dr. Emil Varga had experienced acute psychological stress related to his research work. He had been placed on extended medical leave for his own well-being. No hospital records confirmed his admission. No medical facility could verify his treatment.
11 years later, and thousands of miles away, another scientist was about to cross an invisible boundary that science had never dared approach. In the summer of 2008, a private neuroscience conference convened in Kyoto, Japan. The official program covered standard research topics: functional brain imaging, neural network mapping, cognitive processing models. But in a small side room away from the main conference hall, something extraordinary was about to unfold. Takashi Morimoto was an engineer by training, not a neuroscientist. He had spent years working in medical device development before pursuing his own independent theories about the nature of consciousness. His background was respectable, but unremarkable. He held no prestigious university position. He commanded no major research grants. He was, by all accounts, an outsider to mainstream neuroscience. His presentation was not listed in the official conference schedule. Only a handful of attendees knew it was happening. No journalists were invited. No cameras were permitted. The demonstration took place in a dimly lit room with perhaps a dozen witnesses, all of whom had been personally invited by Morimoto through private channels. He called his invention the field lens. His claim was extraordinary. The device could detect and visualize conscious energy fields extending beyond the physical boundaries of the human brain. To the neuroscientists gathered in that room, the claim sounded like pseudoscience, like a return to discredited vitalism and mystical thinking that science had abandoned a century ago. But Morimoto insisted on a practical demonstration. He positioned his device approximately 12 inches in front of a volunteer's forehead. The field lens itself was an odd assemblage of sensors, emitters, and processing equipment connected to a projection screen. He dimmed the lights and activated the system. After a brief calibration period, an image began to form on the screen.
What appeared on Morimoto's projection screen was unlike any brain imaging technology the witnesses had seen before. It was not a thermal scan showing heat distribution. It was not an MRI reconstruction showing anatomical structure. It was not an EEG pattern showing electrical activity. What materialized was a translucent, shifting form hovering just above and around the volunteer's head. The shape was difficult to describe. Some witnesses later called it cloud-like. Others compared it to aurora patterns or heat shimmer. It appeared as a region of subtle luminosity with no clear boundaries, constantly moving and reforming. Most strikingly, it responded to the volunteer's mental state in real time. When the volunteer was asked to focus intently on a mental task, the field sharpened and intensified. When asked to relax, it diffused and softened. When a second volunteer entered the room in an agitated emotional state, the first volunteer's field immediately reacted, pulsing and changing its pattern of movement. The witnesses sat in stunned silence. Morimoto explained his theoretical framework. The field lens combined near-infrared spectroscopy with low-frequency electromagnetic pulse detection and a proprietary sensor array that he refused to patent or publish. His theory proposed that brain activity generated quantum coherence patterns that extended beyond the skull into the surrounding space. These patterns, he argued, constituted a reactive spatial envelope of consciousness itself. He believed he had demonstrated that consciousness was not entirely confined to neural tissue, that it had a detectable presence in physical space. If true, the implications would revolutionize neuroscience, psychology, and our fundamental understanding of what it means to be aware.
The scientific establishment's reaction was immediate and hostile. Conference organizers who learned about the unauthorized demonstration publicly condemned Morimoto's work. They called it irresponsible, empirically baseless, and potentially harmful to the credibility of legitimate neuroscience research. Within 1 week, Morimoto's research assistant was terminated from his university position without explanation. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Before we continue into this video, I want to know something. Where in the world is my content reaching? Drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. What city? What state? What country? I love seeing how far this community stretches, so don't be shy. Represent your location in the comments right now. The backlash against Takashi Morimoto intensified rapidly. No academic journal would agree to review his research paper. Peer reviewers rejected it without reading past the abstract, citing fundamental conceptual flaws. His requests for research funding were denied by every institution he contacted. The small independent laboratory he operated on the outskirts of Osaka suddenly faced pressure from multiple directions. Building inspectors arrived, citing code violations. Tax authorities questioned his research funding sources. His equipment suppliers began refusing to fulfill orders. Within 6 weeks of the Kyoto demonstration, Morimoto's facility was forced to close permanently. Local newspapers reported that the building was purchased by an unnamed corporate entity for data security testing purposes. Neighbors reported that in the middle of one night, large trucks arrived and removed all equipment from the premises. The building was emptied within hours. By morning, nothing remained. Morimoto himself vanished from public view. He was not officially reported as a missing person. He simply ceased to exist in any public capacity. His phone number was disconnected. His email address bounced back undeliverable messages. His personal website went offline. Former colleagues who attempted to contact him found only silence and dead ends. Years later, in 2017, a grainy photograph allegedly taken during that Kyoto demonstration surfaced on an obscure internet message board dedicated to fringe consciousness research. It showed what appeared to be a luminous field hovering above a seated human figure. The image quality was poor, possibly degraded by multiple generations of copying. Experts who examined it could not confirm or deny its authenticity. The person who posted the photograph provided no context and never responded to questions. The file metadata had been stripped. The original source could not be traced. Within weeks, even that fragmentary evidence disappeared when the message board was shut down by its hosting provider. What happened that night in Kyoto remains a subject of quiet speculation among researchers who believe the boundary between mind and physical reality may be thinner than conventional science admits. In the spring of 2003, a rising German mathematician named Dr. Ulrich Nonneberg stood before a select audience at the International Center for Theoretical Physics in Trieste, Italy. The session was closed to outside observers. The topic was advanced topological geometry. But what Nonneberg presented that afternoon went far beyond abstract mathematics. His paper, titled Topological Bridges Beyond Four-Space, proposed a radical theoretical framework. The fifth spatial dimension, he argued, was not merely a convenient mathematical construct used to solve equations. It was physically real. It influenced observable phenomena, and under precise experimental conditions, it could be directly accessed and manipulated. Unlike string theory, which treats extra dimensions as compactified at scales trillions of times smaller than an atom, Nonneberg's model treated the fifth dimension as folded but puncturable at accessible energy scales. He proposed that with high-frequency torsion fields generated by an adaptive crystalline lattice, it might be possible to create what he called a microportal, a temporary rift in the geometric structure of local spacetime. Nonneberg presented no physical prototype. He offered no experimental data. His presentation consisted entirely of mathematical derivations and theoretical predictions. But according to multiple attendees who later spoke anonymously, the mathematics were extraordinarily elegant and internally consistent. The equations seemed to predict known quantum behaviors while suggesting possibilities that no one had previously considered. The reaction in the room was a mixture of intellectual excitement and profound unease. Several physicists approached Nonneberg after the presentation with technical questions. Others left visibly disturbed. One senior researcher was overheard saying that if the mathematics were correct, Nonneberg had outlined a methodology for manipulating the dimensional fabric of reality itself. Within 2 weeks of the Trieste presentation, Nonneberg received multiple private invitations from organizations that did not typically contact theoretical mathematicians. Dr. Ulrich Noberg received contact from military research divisions, classified defense laboratories, and privately funded think tanks with opaque funding structures. All offered substantial financial support. All requested exclusive access to his theoretical framework and any future developments. All required strict confidentiality agreements. Noberg declined every offer. According to one colleague who spoke with him during this period, he expressed deep concern about the potential applications of his work. He feared that opening pathways to higher dimensions could have consequences no one could predict or control. He decided to return to his rural home in Saxony and suspend all communication about his research. His university quietly removed his profile from their faculty website. His academic email address became inactive. His personal webpage was replaced with a single line of text: "Topology can collapse from within." Then, in February 2004, something strange happened at Noberg's isolated countryside home. A neighbor noticed that all the windows had been covered from inside with reflective metallic foil. No lights were visible through the covering. No smoke rose from the chimney despite sub-freezing temperatures. No one had seen Noberg leave the property. Concerned, the neighbor contacted local police to request a welfare check. Officers arrived and found the front door unlocked. Inside, the house was completely empty. All furniture had been removed. Personal belongings were gone. Closets were bare. In the basement, where Noberg reportedly conducted private mathematical experiments with electromagnetic equipment, nothing remained but concrete walls and floor. But on that basement floor, investigators found something deeply unsettling. Complex mathematical equations had been etched directly into the concrete using what appeared to be a soldering iron or similar heated tool. The symbols referenced geometric concepts that local authorities could not identify. When photographs were sent to mathematics departments at nearby universities, professors admitted the notation was beyond their expertise. No missing person report was ever officially filed. No criminal investigation was launched. Noberg's last known academic collaborator gave only one brief statement to a journalist. Ulrich was pursuing a geometry that perhaps should not be pursued. In the autumn of 1984, in a rented warehouse in a quiet industrial suburb of Toronto, Canada, an electrical engineer named Martin Kessler prepared to demonstrate a device that violated accepted principles of thermodynamics. He had invited a small group of independent inventors, one skeptical journalist, and a camera crew from a local science television program. What they witnessed that afternoon has never been satisfactorily explained. Kessler's invention was a bulky metallic cylinder approximately 2 feet in diameter, constructed from concentric rings of permanent magnets interspersed with copper coils.
He called it a closed-loop magnetic induction engine. According to his explanation, the device could produce continuous rotational force without any conventional power input. When Kessler activated the prototype, it began spinning. The rotation was smooth and steady. More remarkably, it did not stop. No power cables were connected to the device. No fuel was being consumed. No battery pack was visible. The assembled witnesses watched as the cylinder maintained constant angular velocity for over 40 minutes without any detectable energy source. Kessler explained that his engine harvested energy from fluctuating magnetic field variations in Earth's crust, a phenomenon he termed ambient magnetic conversion. The magnetic field of Earth, he argued, was not static but contained subtle variations and fluctuations. His device was designed to capture these variations and convert them into rotational kinetic energy through a resonance feedback mechanism. The journalist present, Anna Del Mar, later wrote that she observed the demonstration with deep skepticism but could identify no obvious deception. The television crew filmed the entire event. Electrical engineers in attendance examined the device and confirmed there were no hidden power sources. The footage clearly showed sustained rotation with no visible energy input. The television episode featuring Kessler's magnetic engine was scheduled for broadcast 3 weeks later. It never aired. Shortly after filming, the television station that had documented Martin Kessler's magnetic engine demonstration was acquired by a larger broadcasting network. All content from the science program was reviewed. The episode featuring Kessler's device was pulled from the schedule without public explanation. Anna Del Mar, the journalist who had covered the event, was contacted by individuals who identified themselves as government liaison personnel. They requested all her notes, photographs, and recordings related to the magnetic engine demonstration. When she asked under what authority they were making this request, they cited national energy security interests and suggested that cooperation would be in everyone's best interest. Kessler himself moved forward with a patent application, confident that his device represented a genuine breakthrough in energy conversion technology. The application was denied within weeks. The rejection notice stated that perpetual motion machines were categorically non-patentable under established statute. Kessler objected that his device was not a perpetual motion machine, which would violate conservation of energy. Rather, it was an energy conversion system harvesting from an external source that conventional physics had not properly recognized. His appeals were denied without further review. Then the legal challenges began. A major energy consortium filed suit against Kessler, alleging that his electromagnetic turbine system violated their existing intellectual property related to generator designs. Additional lawsuits followed from other corporations. His personal bank accounts were frozen pending investigation of the funding sources for his research. Research funding disappeared. Equipment suppliers refused to work with him. At a final public appearance during a community science forum, Kessler made a brief statement. "I did not invent a miracle. I revealed a blind spot in our understanding." Days later, he vanished. His home in Scarborough was found abandoned. Mail accumulated in the mailbox. His vehicle remained parked outside, untouched. Neighbors reported seeing unmarked vans removing crates from the property during the night, 2 days before anyone noticed Kessler was gone. Local police were contacted but declined to investigate, stating there were no signs of foul play or forced entry. In 2011, a biophysicist named Dr. Alejo Barragan was conducting controversial research at a private medical facility affiliated with the University of La Plata in Argentina.
His field was cellular repair mechanisms, but his approach was unlike anything in conventional medicine. Barragan believed that damaged human tissue could be induced to regenerate using nothing but precisely calibrated sound frequencies. The concept sounded like pseudoscience to most medical professionals, but Barragan's credentials were impeccable. He held advanced degrees in both biophysics and acoustic engineering. His early career research on cellular membrane dynamics had been published in respected journals. He understood the mechanical properties of living cells at a fundamental level. His theoretical framework proposed that targeted acoustic waves could induce specific oscillation patterns in cellular membranes, triggering accelerated protein synthesis and mitochondrial repair processes. Using a device he called a sonic cell modulator, he claimed to have achieved remarkable results in preliminary trials. The most documented case involved a patient with second-degree burns covering a significant area of skin. Traditional treatment would require weeks of healing, likely with permanent scarring. Instead, Barragan treated the patient with 3 sessions of his sonic frequency therapy. Medical observers documented that the wound surface area decreased by over 60% within 10 days. The healing tissue showed no scarring. No pharmaceutical drugs were administered. Other trials involved muscle tears, localized bone fractures, and damaged nerve tissue. In each case, Barragan reported healing rates that exceeded normal biological timelines. He prepared detailed documentation and submitted a research paper for peer review. No journal would accept it. Reviewers rejected the paper without requesting additional data. Within 2 weeks, the University of La Plata rescinded its affiliation with Barragan's research, citing concerns over methodological transparency. He was quietly removed from the research faculty with no public explanation. Barragan attempted to present his findings at an international regenerative medicine symposium in Geneva, Switzerland. Upon arrival at the airport, his luggage was seized for security screening. His presentation slot was cancelled. He returned to Argentina, visibly shaken.
After returning from Geneva, Dr. Alejo Barragan retreated to his private laboratory in the outskirts of Tigre, a suburb north of Buenos Aires. Colleagues who visited him during this period reported that his behavior had changed dramatically. He had installed extensive security measures, including surveillance cameras and biometric access locks, highly unusual for a man who had previously maintained an open-door policy with fellow researchers. Barragan told close associates that he believed he was under surveillance. He suspected his communications were being monitored. He began storing backup copies of his research data in multiple secure locations. He spoke of pressure from unnamed parties who wanted either exclusive access to his sonic healing technology or its complete suppression. Then, in October 2012, local news outlets reported a tragic accident. Barragan's car had left a bridge and plunged into the Paraná River. Emergency responders located the submerged vehicle, but the driver's body was never recovered. A closed-casket funeral was held 3 weeks later, with government representatives in quiet attendance. The official report stated that mechanical failure caused the vehicle to lose control. However, mechanics familiar with Barragan's car confirmed that it had undergone complete servicing just 5 days before the incident. The brake system, steering mechanism, and all safety features had been certified as fully functional. Within days of the accident, Barragan's private laboratory was sealed by authorities. Colleagues who attempted to access the facility were turned away. Equipment that had been visible during previous visits was gone when the lab was eventually reopened months later. All computers and data storage devices had been removed. Rumors circulated that several pieces of Barragan's sonic frequency equipment had been relocated to a defense contractor research facility north of Córdoba.
These claims were never officially confirmed. However, in 2015, a partially declassified Argentine military document briefly mentioned a non-invasive biological accelerator program before subsequent sections were heavily redacted. If Barragan's sonic healing device was genuine, it represented technology that could transform medicine entirely, eliminating the need for invasive surgery, reducing dependence on pharmaceutical interventions, and accelerating recovery from injuries that currently cause permanent disability.